Let me write a program and illustrate to you the difference between a break and a continue. Now, you may already be familiar with looping structures. For example, a for loop or a while loop, where you use code to loop through, some certain iteration for whatever purposes. For example, you use a for loop to iterate through code when you may know how many iterations that you need to go through, and you may use the while loop to iterate through code when you might not know how many iterations. Like, for example, you might want to go through some code until a certain value is hit. So you know how for loops work and you know how while loops work. So what I'm going to do is, over the next few minutes, is I'm going to go over two keywords. I'm going to go over the break keyword and the continue keyword. Now, what break does is you use the break keyword in your code when you want to stop processing altogether in that coding iteration. So you just basically, I'll use my slang term, just short circuit it. You just want to get out for some reason. You would use a break. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write a simple program on line 8, a simple for loop that's going to just go through, code 10 times. We got int I equals 0, and while I is less than 10, we add 1 to I. So you probably could look at this and say, okay, well, this line of code or anything between line 8 and line 10 will go through and be executed 10 times, which is true. But what I can do is, if for some reason I want to short circuit that, in English I say, I want to stop. I don't want to go through this anymore. You go through the break. You use the break command. So what I'm doing here is I'm just as a test, just for an illustration, on line 9, I'm just checking the value of I, and again, just for a test, and this is my program. I'm just trying to illustrate an academic point here. So on line 10, I can check for a condition, and if that condition is true, in this case I equals 4, I just want a break. And I got some changes I need to make here. It looks like I need to put a semicolon at the end of line 10 and some other stuff. And line 5, it looks like I didn't spell continue right either. But anyway, this is basically it. So in this line, in this code, on this for loop that I have on line 8 all the way through line 13, it's going to loop through 10 times, and it's going to say, well, it's going to think it's going to go through 10 times. But what's going to happen is, on the 4th time, for whatever reason, this is just a test, line 9 gets evaluated, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Just break out of this loop. Screw going to 10, just get out right now. So when I run this program, I should see system.out.println, I should see 1, 2, 3, and actually no, it should be 0, 1, 2, and 3, and then the 4, it should not show anything. It should just break. So let me execute this, but I bet you I'm going to have to go in and kind of fix my code on line 10. Just go to that break and let me put in a semicolon there. And it looks like I'm still missing one on line 8, but let me see. I execute. Yep, I'm still missing a semicolon on line 8. So let me go on line 8 and put in a semicolon right between the I is less than 10 and I plus plus, right in there. Perfect. And let me just do an execute, and I should be done with my bugs here. And look, I get 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's because on line 9, I'm doing an evaluation. I'm looking to see if I is equal to 4. I just get out. That's what break does. It's no more complicated than that. Break just says, just get out of this for loop and keep executing through the program. Now, this is a little bit different than if we use a continue statement. A continue statement just says, just for this iteration, don't process something, but after you're not done processing this, continue with the for loop. Like, let's just say in this instance that maybe in this for loop that we have on line 8, that we didn't want to break if I was equal to 4. We just didn't want to do something when it equal to 4. So like, if it's equal to 4, yeah, you know what? Let's not do anything. Let's just skip back and go back up to the for loop. And that's what a continue does. Fairly simple. So I'm just going to put a comment on line 10 that the break completely exits I shouldn't use the term exit. It kind of means something else, but it gets out of the for loop. The looping structure is short-circuited, and we are out of the for loop. So let me put in the continue. So let me just comment out line 10, and then line 11, I'm going to do a continue. So remember, continue, what will happen is if I equals 4, it's just not going to keep executing the loop. It's just going to go back up to the 4. So it's going to execute 10 times because that's what we have as part of the for loop for 8. But what's going to happen is that once it gets to 4, it's going to just kind of not do anything. So take a look at the terminal output. We got 0, 1, 2, 3. Wait for it. Look, there's no 4. Because what we have here on line 9 is we're saying if I equals 4, continue, which means don't do line 13. Just go right back up to line 8 and continue through the looping structure. So that is how continue works, and it's not any more complicated than that. So you should know at this point how to use a for loop, how to use a while loop. You should know the instances or the differences between them and when you would use one over another. Remember, you primarily use for when you know how many iterations you want to go. Use while when you're not sure how many iterations you're going to go. And you have two keywords or commands that will get you out of those looping structures. Break will immediately get you out of the looping structure and completely exit the loop, or continue will just stop processing any of the code past that in the loop, like on line 13, and it will just continue like line 8 and continue the loop until we reach the end of the loop, which is when I is equal to 10. So that's all I had for you today. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I bid you all a very well rest of the day. Thank you.